the right way, and then I'll pull your volume down, and then we'll do our thing.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
What? No, no, end it. Okay. Yeah, we don't have any viewers yet, unfortunately, because YouTube is doing what it's doing, and I think up until Jacob, I did a video on as I was getting ready to do an election or a video on ballot machines here in Missouri. My stream has never acted up, and suddenly, my stream is acting quite odd. So, you
Uh,
know, it's a little strange. That's why I said I'm going to have to move over to Odyssey pretty soon because I think they're shadow banning me and they're doing other weird things. So, anyway, with that, I'm going to take your volume down, brother, and we'll get started, man.
Sounds good.
All right, folks, just give me just a second, and we shall proceed. I gotta make sure I never remember the right music to play. So, yep, there it is. All right, let's start the recording. Let's start the Missouri Liberty Report. All right, folks, and we're back with another edition of the Missouri Liberty Report. Thanks so much for joining me. Um, eh, to all those loyal listeners and viewers out there, I appreciate each and every one of you. So this week, I have an old friend from the show. I think he's been on three other times with me. When he was running for U.S. Congress. His name's Jacob Turner. He's out of around the Springfield area. And he is one of those liberty lovers that we always enjoy having on the show. So, Mr. Turner, how are you this evening, sir?
Oh, I'm doing outstanding. I want to thank you for allowing me to come back. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, John.
Yeah, we always have a good conversation when we're on, and we're just talking about freedom and liberty, and who wouldn't enjoy a little more freedom and liberty, So it's just always a positive thing. So I guess Jacob, before we start, for anybody who's newer to this, because I do have a lot of new viewers and the like, why don't you give everybody a little bit of your background, and then we'll kind of go into maybe your future plans and the state of things in Missouri today.
Right. Yeah, I was born and raised in southeast Missouri, and after high school, I left, went in the Marine Corps. I served 2 terms. After my time ended in the Marines, I came back home to open a small business in southeast Missouri. I currently live in Jackson, my wife and 2 daughters, and I recently ran a campaign for U.S. Congress of 8th District.
Okay. And so I guess really, Jacob, you've kind of already put it out there. So let's just bring it out in the open. You've already stated kind of your intentions that you want to run for state rep. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, everywhere I went, I traveled to so many different towns, so many different areas, and everywhere I would go, after I would get done giving a speech or talking to a group of people, they would always come up as, someone would say, "We need you here. We need you at home. You're the type of guy that we need fighting for us in our state." And I believe that, and it started to make more sense that this is where I belong. This is where I needed to be as time progressed, and we have decided as a team. We've sat down and set our sights on the Missouri Senate seat of our area.
Oh, great. Now, let me ask you, Jacob, no, is it Lincoln Huff who's your state senator down there?
Currently, we have Holly Rader.
Okay.
He is over Bollinger, Cape Girardeau, Madison, Perryville, and Scott and Wayne County.
Okay. I
Perry,
thought
Perry
I, I thought you were talking about Lincoln Huff, and I'm like, listen, nothing would make a lot of us here in the Missouri Freedom initiative happier than to see Lincoln Huff go bye bye because he is well, he's Lincoln Huff, and he's not. He and his LA both are not very receptive to some of our ideas. We traveled to the state capitol for the special session to kind of lobby and see what kind of support we could get from reps and senators about removing the sales tax from groceries. Everybody on both sides of the aisle, very receptive. Lincoln Huff, his office, his LA was like, we don't want to hear any of it. We don't want any phone calls. We don't want any emails. We don't want to hear anything about it at all. And I thought, well, that's kind of an odd thing to say. But, so I thought, boy, if you could unseat Lincoln Huff, oh, you would make our day. But anyway, so I happen to agree with a lot of people that told you that we need you here in the state of Missouri. Mike Moon and ran for Senate. I really like Mike Moon. I'm glad he lost. I'm glad he's staying right here in the state of Missouri. I wish kind of Eric Schmidt would have stuck around and maybe ran for governor, but he didn't. So um, what kind of pushed you into thinking about, or making the decision that you're going to run for state senate in 2024? What kind of drove you to that decision?
Well, I feel like I'm carrying the baton for the ones that came before me in the fight for liberty, and I feel like it's my responsibility to fight as hard as I can to bring those principles and the mindset of liberty to Missouri. I've like the father of the modern day liberty movement once said, it's my motto and it's the goal that I have and will always have, and that is to promote peace and prosperity by a strict adherence to the principles of individual liberty. We brought the fight to the national level. We exposed many wrongdoings to the constituents of 8th District. Now I feel it's time for us to move our efforts towards the state of Missouri, and in doing so, moving the state in the direction of becoming more free and prosperous, possibly the most free and prosperous in the union is what I'd like to see. There's those principles that we stand upon, those ideas and concepts. We're going to bring them. We're going to boil them down from the national level and move them into the state level. And I think we can be highly effective in doing so. I see a lot of opportunity here for positive change. I feel that we have, at the state level, I have a better opportunity to get those more powerful moves across to move our state in the right direction than I would at a national level, where we're dealing with a lot of different, not so liberty friendly minds. I think we have a good base here, and in my district, in my area, I carry a pretty large base myself. I think that we'll be able to rally and motivate and help steer other representatives in the right direction.
Yeah, like I said, this is something, Jacob, I know that you're kind of aware of, but now that I've moved to this type of podcast, honestly, this is what I've become interested in. How do we get our state out of the clutches as much as we can of the federal government? How do we move to nullifying more, using the 10th Amendment to nullify laws that are repugnant to the Constitution, and making and keeping more of our hard-earned money and more of our freedom, securing our gun rights, which has been done with SAPA. But why not put SAPA in the Constitution? If we could do that, that would be even better. But we've got a lot of work to do, and our main concern really is, and I want to get your take on this, Jacob, the amount of federal money that comes in as part of our state budget. I believe it's about half of the state budget is federal money. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's 50% for FY 23. It's it is 24 billion in total federal money coming in, which is not a small amount. Now, it is slightly inflated from last year due to COVID funding. However, we have to become more self-reliant. When we start to get to where we rely so much and so heavily on 50% of our budget coming from outside sources, At any time, if that money gets pulled, we're in trouble. We have to start looking at, just like we did at the federal level, we came up with and wrote out a plan to save the nation billions of dollars just by restructuring the way budgets are done at the federal level when it comes to military contractors and so on and so forth. We have that. My team and I, we have the same ability to do that here. What we'll do is we'll start really getting into the weeds as we're advancing towards our goal to run this campaign. And we're going to start really digging in the weeds of where this money goes, how is it spent, where's the waste, what can we do without, and really start to trim the fat away so that we're taking less money from the federal government. I mean, obviously, I think we would be better off to not accept any. It comes down to when you accept money from them, it comes with an expectation. It's a lot like these politicians that will just take money from anybody during campaigns. They want something for that money. These lobbyists, they want something. The federal government uses the same tactics, but they use it on the state level. And they like to dump money really heavily into public schools. And it's because they want to dictate what is done and how things are done inside these schools. They want to pull power away from teachers and give that power to the government. And we are the type that want to restore that power back to the people, back to the parents, back to the teachers to teach properly and what kids need, and start to push the federal government out of our business. And I think that's where it starts. I had wrote down a few. What is it that we find most important that we want to attack first? And that was my very first one. Was the federal budget of federal funds has to come down. We have to make ourselves more self-reliant. That is something that is number one that we wrote down as a team, and we're dedicated to finding and eliminating as much as possible, and we can do so. It's not like anybody's going to notice that there's these drastic cuts happening if we get our way, because we're eliminating the waste and the frivolous spending. And there's a lot of it. You've seen it. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to public education.
Absolutely. And when you're talking about the lobbyist money coming in, we've been really focusing on the rhinos that are in our state houses, the House and the Senate side both. But on the House side, I think the biggest rhino of all is Dean Plocker. And you can see where his donations come from, and by the way he acts. And when some members of the organization have talked to him before about certain bills, he'd just come out and say that bill's never seen the light of day, and that was I believe that was the Stand Your Ground Enhancement Act. He's like, yeah, that's never going to see the light of day. And some of the other, the bill that, or the colluding that went on with Rudy Veit on the floor last session to destroy Susie Pollack's, vaccine freedom bill. It clearly has the interest of the lobbyists in mind and not the will of the people. And I went to a meeting last week, Monday. And, our state rep said the day after the election, they were called back to basically vote on, I think it was the House Majority Leader, the caucus leader, all these things. He said there was lobbyist money already coming through to influence votes for those positions in the House. So, what we want to see is people like Plocker linking up some of these guys losing their power, because clearly they do not care about what their constituents want. They are concerned about whatever, with the agricultural tax credits. They only wanted to do what Parson wanted to do. That was it. And in instances of other bills, it was, what do the lobbyists want? They clearly aren't listening to the people. And if they are, they're listening to the people on the other side of the political aisle, which means they might as well run as Democrats instead of Republicans. They're surely not conservative, and they're not constitutional. So this is, a big problem that we're going to face. Let's get into this a little bit, because some people say I'm going to do this, but let's kind of go through step by step. Let's say you're elected to the Senate in 2024. So January 2025, you start your, you'll be in your first session. What are some of these things? What are some things that you would like to do as far as would you look for people that you know are freedom minded and begin to try to build coalitions with them and in order to, focus on the goals that you have or what are some of the first things you would do when you're elected or if you're elected and in your first term, what are some things that you would do to set a foundation? Because this is something I don't really ask. I never think to ask most people who are running. But what are some of the things that you would do right from the get go to kind of establish a foundation for yourself?
Well, I've been very lucky over the course of the last 2 years to meet a lot of the politicians and to get to know certain ones and to kind of have an understanding of where their mindsets are at. But I'm of the mind of single issue coalition building, and I believe that is the way to move forward. I am willing to work with anybody so long as our principles will align on a certain issue and will move us forward in the state of liberty. And that's something that I adopt from the Ron Paul mindset, a single issue coalition building. But yes, of course, you do want to find a stable group of people that are liberty minded, but also can help uh, mentor you as a freshman coming into the Senate. You want to be able to surround yourself with people who have knowledge, who have the know-how of how to get a bill, the best avenue of approach to get a bill pushed through, and to start working and building those relationships. But I'm of the mind of single issue coalitions because there are people that they believe totally they have a totally different idea or concept of politics than you and I do. However, there are things that you and I have in common with those people, such as used to corporate bailouts, for instance. Ending corporate bailouts used to be a thought that the Democrat Party subscribed to, or at least a portion of them. They didn't want to bail out the banks. They didn't want. They wanted to end war. They wanted to stop foreign intervention. Well, guess what? I can agree with those things. I agree with all those. And that's some of the things at a national level, but it's the same everywhere. And like you said, there are different shades of Republican, and those different shades will have opinions and views on certain matters that we agree. And I will build those relationships on to make sure that neither have to sacrifice our principles, but we both get to push the piece of legislation that we're trying to get across. And I think that's the best way to be.
Yeah, I know that you're more, more libertarian leaning. So, and that's, when we get good libertarian, even if they're not running in the libertarian party, but you pretty much know they're more of a libertarian type. It's what I always tell people um, that listen, the best thing about them is they're not going to stick to one side of the aisle all the time. Maybe the Democrats have something that they would like to push on, let's say something on nonviolent crime,
Right.
something or victimless crimes, and maybe they're going to push some kind of justice reform for victimless crimes. And and so there might be several so-called conservatives that won't because that's a Democrat bill. A
Right.
libertarian or a libertarian or a liberty-minded person is going to get behind that because it's the principled thing to do. It's the moral thing to do.
Right. And I think that makes us more effective in that type of role in this type of environment because it's so locked down. It's so everybody's afraid to work with anybody. And you can work with someone and not sacrifice your principles. You can work with somebody and do it the right way so that your constituents that you represent are having their needs met. Because in the end, that's what it's about for me, is I am going to represent my people and what their wants and desires and needs are, but also with the key focus of liberty in mind, making those choices. I'm very upfront about what I'm about, and I think that most people who know me can tell you my agenda at the national level forcing government out of our lives by protecting and making our money sound again, looking forward to protecting the Second Amendment. These are ideas that can still translate to the state level, and I believe I'll be highly effective at implementing them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we've got to work. We've got some momentum here. We've done some great things, and some of these groups have done great things. And it's something we just have to keep pushing on this. We have to keep pushing ahead. And I know that sometimes people think that if their person gets in, or again, like we've had a, now I don't think we have it now, but we've had a Republican supermajority in this state for a long time, and I think people just say, well, there's way more Republicans than Democrats, you know, nothing bad's going to happen. But look what's happened. We've got a gas tax thrown in on us. That was from the conservatives dropped a gas tax on us after the people voted it down 3 times. So we have to do better. We have to do better at picking people who are going to truly represent us. And not only that, but even after they're elected, we have to keep paying attention. We have to keep focused. We have to keep working for other other legislation that will help everyone in the state be more free, and not just saying, okay, well, we're good. We got SEPA and we got this, and now we're done. No, we're never done, because once you go idle, that's when the pushback from the other side occurs. So, okay, let me get your thought on this, because right now I think it's very close to a bill, the bill language being completed on gold and silver as a currency here in the state of Missouri. What are your thoughts on gold and silver here in the state of Missouri as a currency that if a retailer chooses to take that, they're free to do so? There's a lot of other little nifty things in this bill that are going to be good for the people in the state of Missouri. But what are your thoughts on something like that, Jacob?
Well, I think that if we can find a way to back our money and protect and have more of an old style gold standard or of a sort here in Missouri, I think that's a great idea. I think anytime that gold protects money from devaluing. And once we came off the gold standard, ever since the dollar, we've been robbed of purchasing power. The national level, utilizing the Federal Reserve, the constant printing. The more they print, the more our dollar devalues. So I love the concepts and the ideas. I subscribe to an Austrian economics view. I believe in sound money. I believe in the principles of such, and I think that gold and silver is a very safe way to do so. So I support that for sure. That's very intelligent. I'm glad to see that people in Missouri are starting to look at how can we secure and protect ourselves against future inflation, and I think that might be a good way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about, we see how the feds have been acting. We see how the federal government has spent money so recklessly for the last several decades that we as people have to figure out a way. Even if it's a backdoor economy, an alternative economy, we have to start coming up with ways as kind of a hedge against inflation. And protect ourselves so that we can continue to, buy products that we need, get the things that we need, and as a way of doing so in a way that we actually save ourselves more money. And that's one of the key things. I know some other things in this bill, the state would have a repository of gold and silver. I believe that even as far as civil asset forfeiture, any of those things, you could not take the person's gold and silver. I think, what do they call it, malleable property, something to that effect. I can't remember the technical word. Things like that.
Yeah, at one time, gold was collected by the government and taken in, and you were only allowed to own so much. So the having the protection of that not occurring in the future is a pretty solid move.
Yeah, it's going to
Someone,
be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, someone did their homework.
Yeah, he
So
really did. He really did. He wrote a great outline. The Mises Caucus and the Mises Institute was like, holy crap, this is a great bill. And we pretty much already got somebody who said I'm gonna sponsor this thing. As soon as the bill language is completed, I will file it as soon as its pre-filing starts December 1st, I believe. It's going to be pre-filed and get rolling right along. And this bill is going to be big in the state. It's going to be like this is going to be like the second coming of SEPA as far as the popularity and just groups, not just grassroots groups here in Missouri. I think there's going to be a lot of outfits who are interested in gold and silver from all around the country are going to be backing this. There's going to be phone calls coming in from everywhere saying, let's get this bill through. Let's get it to the governor's desk. Yeah, this is going to be one of the hottest, if not the hottest bill coming in through on the Senate side this legislative session, and we are going to have to hit the ground running in order to, um, make sure it stays in the forefront of the reps and senators' minds and make sure we put enough pressure on them to push through. So somebody says, how would you protect, Jacob, a gold and silver currency from the paper market manipulation? In what way how do you see protecting that from manipulation by paper money?
well, at the national level, at the national level, you'd have to go back to a complete gold standard to do so, to make sure that the dollar wasn't manipulated. See, there can only exist of the amount of money in circulation of the economy can only exist for how much gold they had on hand. So when you go to the state level and you were to try to recreate, well, there's a problem because we don't have our own currency here. We don't have a Missouri dollar, so therefore we can't have a Missouri dollar per a dollar's worth of Missouri gold, right? So there is the trouble with that. But I would like to read more into the language of the bill to see. But it would be something tricky. And what I would do is I'd reach out to the Mises University. There are economists who are, this is their specialty. This is what they have built years and years of research, study. They teach it. They have a solid understanding of how to apply sound money to the economy. And it would take a mind like that to understand how can we protect a state when our currency is built off the national level. That's the tricky part that comes in. But I think that having it on hand so that we ever do have to go to back to a certain gold standard of our own monetary system, that right there would be big. In my eyes, that's the way I see it. Is like, okay, so say the economy eventually collapses or we falter. We have this gold on hand. We have the storage. We can come up with our own ability, and it's backed by our dollar is backed by gold. So therefore, we know that we have sound money. So we already have it in place to build our own economy. But gold and silver are not going to devaluate. They're not going to be influenced by the dollar. So you don't really have to worry about that. Gold is going to be worth what it's worth right now, and it's only going to increase like it has. Same with silver. It holds its value, and that's why we went with the gold standard versus other things in the beginning until things like the Bretton Woods agreements and such. So I think that my mindset would be to go to the people who this is their masters in this field. And they would be more than welcoming to put together a little council and help you figure this out on what's the best way to safeguard. That would be my first step.
Okay.
Because I want to make my language in this bill was set up properly so I didn't miss anything. And that's what I think I've been very good at is I know I know to go to the source of the knowledge. I think it was Henry Ford who said, "I don't know everything, but I know how to find the person who does know what I need to know." And I think that you have to be willing to go and put yourself in front of the knowledge. And I think that those are the people that would know how to secure our money the best.
Yeah, because basically he said he's asking about the paper, gold, and silver contracts that depress the value of the metals in terms of the dollar. Because I know they're like Patrick and some of these guys, like they're actively trying to depress the value of gold and silver. They've been kind of manipulating prices when they've not normally done that. They've normally left it alone, and lately,
Right.
you know,
I haven't seen any shift in the gold value. Is it low now?
I think it's lower than it should be. I think what they're saying is basically because of how bad inflation is right now and how the economy is. Because 2008, gold and silver and all that I think silver almost tripled in value. It started out around $14 an ounce, and it got up to 40 plus, and we're
Right.
not seeing that right now. And I think the opinion is that they're manipulating the currency, well, the precious metals values, and for some reason they're almost debasing them as well, or holding the value down where they should be actually going up because of what's going on with the dollar and everything right now. That normally when the dollar gets as bad, gold and silver prices go up tremendously, and they're
Right.
not doing that right now. And I think that's
Right.
the concern. Like, how are these people manipulating this and doing this in order to keep the value of the precious metals down even?
Well, I can tell you this: it's not out of the realm of belief. I mean, the government always, anytime another source of our monetary system comes up that could hold better than the dollar, they attack it full force. I mean, you see what they did to crypto; they completely ran it in the ground. Um, and the fact that crypto was decentralized and allowed people to operate outside the dollar, it just goes to show what the government's willing to do to attack these other systems. But
Yeah,
it's sad.
I want to bring something up real quick because I have a guy at work and he swears up and down. And he's always talking to me about crypto, 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 crypto. And I said I like crypto because it's decentralized. But he
Right.
he thinks, and he tries to tell me all the time, he's just 100% sure that the government just could never do anything to crypto. And I was like, dude, you're wrong. They will produce tactics and everything else, and they will do everything in their power because they're going to want to be the only digital dollar. And I said, you don't think they're going to go through all the hoops and everything else and create all these things in order to try to destroy that market? He's like, well, you can't. It's blockchain. It's decentralized. I'm like, you haven't paid attention very well.
No,
Anything the government wants to destroy badly enough, it will do everything and anything in its power to do so.
that's why it's down right now is because so many laws have been after it. I mean, they've attacked it completely. They've been harassing that market for the last 2 years, and then it's embarrassing to them that the dollar is doing so bad, and then crypto is doing so well, and so they've taken steps and they've worked with other countries to take steps to attack that market, and now it's crashed. So they've scared a lot of people out of doing business with crypto, and scared them out of investing. And I think that just that shows the lengths that they'll go to stay the only ones in town.
Yeah, I mean, because that what I tried to tell him was, yeah, I mean, I said, yeah, Bitcoin and that got way up there,
Right.
and but when but crypto is tied to a fiat currency. It gets its value basically from the dollar. When you sell a Bitcoin, it's coming back to you in dollars, and it's tied directly. And I said, when the economy started to take a dump, all these companies that had, they literally had Bitcoin and stuff, and they dumped it for tangible assets. and they got out of it, and the prices bottomed out. And it's like it's still tied to fiat currency, directly tied. Yeah, it's decentralized, but if you want it into your account, I mean, sure, people are coming out with literal coins that you can carry around, but if you're trading it for dollars, it's directly tied to dollars. If the dollar is inflated and you get what we have right now, then yeah. And people lose faith in everything and they're going to tangible assets and they dump their currency out and they stop investing in it, then the value just goes where gold and silver doesn't do that. If it's left untampered with, gold and silver will actually gain value. And that's why I was
Well,
telling him I have more faith in precious metals than I do cryptocurrency.
well, it's the same way with the dollar in the free market. If you look at any economy that's not tampered with, you allow the free market access to grow, to thrive. The dollar has a limited amount because it's backed by a certain limited amount of gold. The dollar only increases in value. There's just only a certain limit of dollars out there if you do it properly. That in that kind of economy, the dollar grows in value. But now we have the reverse effect now. We have it to where the dollar doesn't have any form of backing. It's just it's based off the belief system that everything's going to be all right, the fiat currency, and it's not going to be all right because they don't know how to stop spending. We need to take the credit cards away from these politicians because they're just running up the debt, the national debt. I think every kid born today will be saddled with, I think it's $95,000 worth of national debt. That's incredible.
Yeah.
So,
what a happy thought, right? What a great feeling.
right.
Um,
You know,
let's. I'm trying to think. I know you and I have talked a little bit about this before, but what are your thoughts on SEPA? Do you and would you like to see the Second Amendment Preservation Act actually put into the Missouri Constitution at some point? What are your thoughts on that?
yeah, I like the idea of safeguarding it and putting it into a position that it's kind of locked in and it has more say. But I'd like to expand it. I think that what was it, the Hearing Act that they tried to get pushed through not too long ago, where you can have the ability to have suppressors.
Yes.
And I think that that's a great idea. Let's expand it. Let's actually, the Second Amendment should be treated like the Second Amendment. It shall not be infringed. We should expand SEPA to have more coverage and to cover and to go more in depth on stand your ground. We have to make sure that we can protect our homes and that I value private property rights. I value one being able to protect their home and their family, and I think that we should have protections put in place to make sure that that Missourians can do so.
Yeah.
So any way we can safeguard our liberties, I'm for that.
Yeah, I would definitely like to see that Hearing Act. What is it? I guess it'd be the Hearing Protection Act or something go through where you can you can buy a suppressor and not have to pay through the freaking nose. I mean, and that because that's what it is. That's why suppressors are so high because you have to have a special, federal license for it or tax stamp or whatever, and then you have to go buy the suppressor.
Right.
I mean, that's why they're so dang expensive because, laws against it. And I would love to see that go away or Missouri do more things to protect and enhance our Second Amendment rights because for the first time back in June or July, I I shot a suppressed AR. And I'll tell you what, Jacob, I fell in love. It was a beautiful thing.
It is. It is. I have one myself. I have another one that's in the pipeline. I'm waiting for the non-constitutional ATF to sign off on it. It's been 8 months, of course, but I'm waiting for one to come back from one of my new rifles I had custom built. So I know about the headache. I understand the headache. Not only are they expensive, but then you got to pay the ATF. You got to go through the process. and then they make you sit and wait for up to a year, sometimes over. It's nonsense. If I don't have a criminal record, I'm a veteran, and and none of that even matters. It's the Second Amendment should cover it. But these are things that I believe are just no nonsense policies that we can enact, things that we can get going that just follow along with the Constitution and expand our people's rights, freedoms, and liberties. And so anything I can do to expand the Second Amendment, our Second Amendment rights and liberties, I will do. I'm for ending property taxes, things like that. I'm 100% for ending the right that Republicans gave foreign entities the ability to buy Missouri farmland. We got to do away with that. There should be no foreign countries buying Missouri farmland, and this is something that I would like to start working on if I get elected, and to make sure that doesn't occur again. Because right now, China alone owns over 100,000 acres of Missouri farmland. That's concerning to me, and it should be concerning to those that are listening. So it's to me, it's very important. We have to safeguard. To me, that's a security issue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
We need to make sure that our land is staying with our people here in Missouri, and with the people. I don't know why we would give the power to China to own food sources of over 100,000 acres. It makes no sense to me.
Yeah, you got that. You got let's see, what else do we got? We have let's see. And then you got these, we've got the I can't remember the Tiger Express thing for the the electrical lines. We got these huge solar farms, and it seems like for the right price that some of our state reps and senators are willing to sell anything to anybody for the right price, for the right kickback, whatever. They're willing to just sell off. Now, listen, I don't understand why you would want to, but if a landowner wants to put a solar farm on his property, it's like, okay, you can't really stop a private property owner from doing what he wants with his land.
Right.
But I believe this starts inside the state house, the state capitol, and where these things are brewed up and cooked up and then presented to the people in this positive light. And it's like, okay, wait, now if we could stop that, the influence, the money influence in the capital where these things come to light, if we could get people out of the state capital that are so easily bought and paid for, that would be a step in the right direction, because I don't think these companies just march into Missouri and start talking to landowners. No, the first place they go is the Capitol building and start handing out dough, plus the federal funds coming in for these types of things at the same point. So you got it on two ends. You got lobbyists and you got federal money coming in. So you got a double-edged sword sticking into the Capitol and gouging. It doesn't seem to gouge any of the state reps, but it gouges the heck out of all of us.
That's right. I've heard up north it's very, very common to see those fields now.
Yeah. Catherine Dreyer, one of the libertarians who ran for state senate here, out around where, kind of close to where she's living at. She's seeing them there too, up toward, now she's around the Troy, Missouri area. She started to see them around there. I mean, huge, huge fields of just solar arrays. And Catherine and the group, some of these groups that she works with, have raised legitimate concerns, especially, if those things catch fire, fire departments can't just roll up and just start hosing them down. Somebody has to show up to kick the power off. They got to use special stuff to put the fires out. I don't think these people are told this. They're just told, oh, we'll lease your land for good money to put a solar farm here, and people see the dollar amount and goes, okay. They think they're doing something good for the environment and all these other things, and a lot of good information, legitimate information, and things that if they knew about, they'd probably be like, whoa, what do you mean here? They probably wouldn't do it. But I think, again, from between the lobbyists and the federal money, a lot of that information is being withheld from the people because there's an agenda here. And I'm not much on green energy, Jacob. I'm not really feeling the love from the green energy that they tell me I'm supposed to feel. I'm not feeling real
Right.
secure and safe in it. I don't know what your thoughts are on it, but I don't like it.
But my thoughts are, if you want to, if you want solar panels, you want to throw them up in your house, residential. I get it. That's everybody, right. It's your private property. Do what you want. But farmers in Missouri have been under attack for a while. And you look at things like the World Economic Forum. You look at their idea of what the future should be like. They think that carbon emissions, the biggest carbon emissions problem issues that we have, farmers. They want to attack. Okay, well let's attack their fertilizer. Let's raise prices. Let's get involved with the banks. So if the farmers don't do exactly what we want them to do, then we'll start to not give out the loans that they need to get by. There's several. I said in the meeting just last month, Michelle Latham, the former mayor, she ran for mayor in Cape Girardeau. She put out a meeting and gave a presentation and brought in some senators from Missouri and this, House members. And I sat and listened to this agenda that they're putting out, and it's amazing to me that they've been allowed to get by so far. These people have gotten banks on board, and they are trying to apply certain rating numbers to these farmers that if they comply, they get a higher number. If they don't comply, they get a lower number, and that's going to affect them. It's very, very daunting and dangerous territory that they're treading. And I think that one of the things, I want to protect these farmers. I want to make sure that they're not being influenced or because the growth of crops, they will be affected if this plan is carried out by the World Economic Forum. So it's important that we protect them and that we give them safe haven to do what they do best, and that's produce.
Yeah, you talking about like the ESG scores and all that stupid crap?
Right.
Yeah,
And
that's.
when I first heard it, I found it hard to believe. I thought, oh, there's no way. And then the more I looked into it, and I sat through the meeting and I watched and I listened to farmers in my area come in and talk, and it's just baffling. There's a lot of farmers who are very worried in my area. And, one of the things I can tell them is I will fight for you. I will do everything in my power because I am thankful that they do what they do so that my family can eat. I'm thankful that they work so hard and they're trying to feed this nation. So I will fight and protect them to the end.
And it's one of those things. Going back to it's personal property tax. I think if we really, really, really want to help farmers, then the one thing we would do is get rid of the personal property tax because they're paying for every head of livestock, their equipment, everything else. You know, I think if we're going to do the farmers a good thing, then we're going to get rid of personal property tax here in the state because I'm really tired of hearing the rhinos especially talk about how much they care about family farms, but
Right.
then when the personal property tax thing comes up, they don't want to vote against.
Right.
They don't want to say, yeah, let's get rid of the personal property tax. Senator Eigel has proposed good bills that you eliminate at the rate of inflation. So right now it might take 2 years and the personal property tax would be gone. Other times it might be 5 years before it's gone, and it gives the municipalities, the counties, time to figure out how they're going to shuffle things around and all that. I don't. It irritates the crap out of me, really. I mean, we really care. I love the farmers. No, you don't. No, you don't, because you won't take this huge tax burden off of them at the end of the year. And I hear some of these guys talk about how much their tax bill is, and that's on top of their house and their cars that they already own. Now they're getting another bill because they got 100 head of cattle and they got
Right.
1,000 acres or however much, and their tractors and their combines and their balers and everything else. I'm thinking, good Lord, how do you even afford to pay for any of this? Because we see what the market is right now on beef. It's awful for them right now. I think a lot of guys literally just sold their heads off. They just, all right, I'm getting rid of everything. They literally just sold every cow they had because they were just losing money, and
Right.
that's pretty sad. Um,
It comes down to the fact of, does private property exist? Do you own, when you buy your house? Do you own
yeah,
it? Okay. Well, if you own it, we live in a free country. If you can buy property and then that is your property and you own it, well, then you should not have to pay rent on that property forever, because you don't own it. That's the catch right there. So you pay off your house, and then you're still required to pay rent to the government. And if you fail to pay rent, well, guess what? They come and they'll take your house. So does private property exist or does it not? Not. So private, in my eyes, property taxes cannot exist in Missouri. We have to do away with it. There are other ways to find money. We can figure that out, and we'll figure it out before we make the move. We'll make sure that we're covered. But property taxes is just, it's silly to me.
yeah,
It's silly.
yeah.
But you brought up Senator Bill Eigel, about a bill. Yeah, I heard that he's exploring the option of running for governor.
Yes, yeah, he is. He's exploring that, and he's the guy that I would back 100%. Absolutely.
That, yeah, yeah. I actually met him a month ago. Sat down and spoke with him, and I was pleasantly surprised and shocked at how much of a student of liberty he was, and I'm blown away. And if we were able to get someone like him in that position, what a come up it would be from what we have now. I'll tell you that. We
yeah.
a state, we would be a state, and I know this is bold, but if we could get this man in office, I believe we would be a state much like recognized like Florida. I think that he has the ability to make this a more free and better, more prosperous state. These are the kind of people we need. This is someone who will be bold, who will stand up against the things that need to be he's a no nonsense guy. He's not going to mess around with it. And I was highly impressed with him, and I look forward to his race when it comes up, if he decides to go ahead. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know, like Catherine Dreyer, she's known Senator Eigel for years, and she said he's kind of unusual because he wasn't like this when he first got into office. He's actually gotten better instead of
Right.
worse, because a lot of them get worse. Now, Mike Moon doesn't, and there's a few others that we can count on to not get worse. Eigel's gotten better as he's gone on. I think, he's come to a realization that, hey, these things are wrong. And he's done some great, and he puts up a fight. Um,
He does. He does, and he truly understands the principles of individual liberty, and that's setting down, having an opportunity to look him in the face, ask the hard questions. I got to put your hat on for a little while and kind of be and ask more than I gave, which was nice. And I was blown away, and it let me know, like, hey, in the near future, we have an opportunity here to really turn the tide and put some very good people in the seats, to get the movement moving forward in the way that we're looking to go. And I'm hopeful. I believe the future is bright. I'm optimistic. I've always been an optimist, and I still am. I feel like we have a very good group of candidates coming up. I'm excited for what the future holds.
yeah, I am too. It's just, again, the Plockers of the world and all. We've got to do something about these people, and it's kind of my mission now. One of my big goals, because again, I've gone to the Capitol with the Missouri Freedom Initiative folks a few times now, and I learned a whole lot. But I've also learned that there are a lot of grassroots organizations that they might make some phone calls and they might write some emails, but that's literally it. That's it. And we've got to get more grassroots groups involved and literally going to Jeff City, talking to state reps, doing these things. We've got to have more of that. I think if we can get several of these groups going up on different days and pushing for the legislation that we know is good, that instead of just depending on us and maybe one other group, because really they're not used to seeing a group of 10 or 12 people walking in and talking to all the reps and all the senators, spending a day or two doing that. And we're not lobbyists. We don't have checks. We're just a group of citizens walking. They're not used to that. My state rep, when I brought up, formal and informal calendars at a meeting, he was stunned. I don't think
Right.
any of his constituents have ever said those words to him before, because he just kind of stood there and went, "Whoa." And I'm like, yeah, I'm not an expert, but I do know a little bit. And of course, I was trying to put pressure on him about Plucker, and he's like, "Well, I got a good working relationship with him." And I'm thinking, no, that is not the words that I want to hear you say, man. I want to hear
Right.
you say, "Yeah, we can do better than this." But he's like, "Oh, I got a good relationship. He helped me get some bills." Listen, I'm thinking, I don't care about that.
No.
But anyway, yeah, we do have some superstars in the Senate, and we got a few in the House, and we've definitely got to build the momentum. But the people, have to get involved. That there is no other way about it, folks. The people of this state, you cannot sit back and expect everybody else to do your work for you and then complain when it doesn't get done. You have to be active. You have to get off your tush and get in your car and drive to Jeff City and just get a group of, I don't care if it's 4 or 5 people together, and get up there, uh, and talk to your state rep. Walk into their office and be like, "Hey, we live in this town. We're in your district, and we'd like to talk to you about this." They're not used to that. Okay, so for those of you in KEYK land, thank you so much for joining me this week for the Missouri Liberty Report. Next week, I should have Patrick Holland back on for our monthly visit. And thanks to all of you who listen, and we'll see you next week. All right, moving on. So Jacob, anything else that something else on your mind here? Because I brought you on. We can talk about anything you want to talk about. Something else that you would like to discuss, and it doesn't even have
Yeah.
to do necessarily with the state, but something else that you would like to talk about.
Well, I think the big thing is like I just kind of piggyback off what you said is just that it takes everybody getting involved. That's how I started with political activism. I was getting out, I was protesting, I was going to events, I was trying to push these agendas through, and it does have an effect. People showing up, being loud, doing it respectful but right. This does shift the momentum in a positive and right way. And you start looking at groups like in Cape Girardeau County, Perryville County, we have the We the People. These are amazing groups, the We the People group, and they're doing so much for the state. It's each week in Cape Girardeau, they have meetings, and then in a lot of those meetings they'll have classes on the Constitution, on our rights, on how different areas that we need to focus, or that we want to focus on, how they operate. When you talk about a convention of the states, they had a study on the convention of the states not too long ago. Forming these groups or getting involved with these groups and becoming more educated is the way we move forward. Because I promise you, I hate to use the term enemy, but the enemy of liberty is out there, and they are educating themselves in the ways to defeat us. We have to be active. We have to be out there. We have to start pushing candidates. And that means rolling up our sleeves, knocking on doors, donating. If we can't donate our time, donate our money, become share warriors on social media. Start passing out information on the candidates that you're trying. Start pushing those out there to people so that they can be recognized. Because the people that aren't taking this donor money, these big dollars, They sometimes struggle with finding name recognition. It's up to we, the people, to get out there and help push these candidates to the forefront. And we can do so. Word of mouth is how everything used to be done. Sometimes we have to take a step off of social media, go and meet our neighbors and talk to them about what's going on. And I understand that this can be somewhat of an uncomfortable conversation, but we have to be willing to get out there and fight for what we want, and that is to push the agenda of liberty. That is like the big message that I always talk about anytime I get out there. Is I want to inspire others to take the step to get active, because it's going to take us all to win this fight.
Right. Okay. I want to ask you a question, because this is just the on this show, the Missouri Freedom Initiative. This is where the comments get fiery in the live chat, and sometimes it's a little obnoxious. But hey, it is what it is. People are free to have a discussion, but sometimes I'm like, all right, settle it down, or I'm gonna, I don't know. Anyway, here's a question that a lot of people want to know, Jacob. And that is, what are your thoughts? What would you do about, let's say, even at a state level, but let's talk about the federal level too. Immigration and illegal immigration. What are your thoughts? What should, because this is one of the things. It's a state issue on if the state wants to allow, to do whatever, nationalize these people, whatever, make them citizens. But what are your thoughts on the immigration issues in this country and even in the state of Missouri? What are your thoughts?
We have to start enforcing the law. The law is you will come here legally or you don't come here at all. And that's in basic terms. We have to enforce that law. Look, I'm all for people coming here. I'm all for people assimilated into to become Americans and to chase the American dream. What's left of it at this time in this economy and this with our current leadership, but they have to do it the right way. We have to secure our borders, and we have to take actions to send them back. It just safeguards us, protects us. We're abiding by the law, we're doing the right thing, but it also protects the people that are coming here illegally. A lot of times they come here, they're detained, they sit down there on the border for a very long time. The holding facilities are full. We have to, at the national level, negotiate with Mexico to make sure that we are sending them back. They have to go back. I would like to see the times become a lot faster, but what we don't want to do is start to use taxpayer dollars to start funding them to stay in. Like, for instance, I read an article where millions and millions of dollars were spent on hotel stays. So vouchers were given to illegals to stay in hotels. This is unacceptable. The American people are already being robbed enough. So anybody who comes over here illegally and they're willing to live off the tax dollars of the hardworking Americans who are already here, that's like walking in somebody's house, fixing yourself a sandwich, sitting down on the couch, putting your feet on their table. You've already been disrespectful. That's not how you do it. You have to do it the right way. So I'm pretty much no nonsense when it comes to this. I don't tolerate the idea of there's just too many burdens that come with allowing people to get away with it.
Okay, so I want to ask you something else too, because this gets brought up. Some people say we shouldn't allow any immigration for X amount of years because the system is just overburdened. There's too many people coming in. Industry, the jobs and everything else. The country just cannot handle any more immigrants coming in at all for, let's say, 50 years or 20 years or whatever number they want to throw out there. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, no more immigration for years, and then and somebody else is saying foreign ownership of assets allows market manipulation of our economy by our enemies that want to destroy what freedom we have left. All these things kind of get tangled together. But what are your thoughts on all this? I mean, what are your thoughts on just cutting off immigration for so long and saying, okay, for the next, let's say 10 years, we can't allow anybody else to immigrate and become nationalized citizens or naturalized citizens for 10 years? What are your thoughts on something like that?
Well, I think there are people who are assets that if we're bringing them in, they are going to contribute to our society in a positive way. But I think that, well, how about we do this? Someone comes in for 10 years, they're not eligible for any services when it comes to any form of welfare, any form of living off the tax dollar system, right? So that person has to come in and swim. They have to come in. They have to get a job. They have to give back. But yeah, I mean, I don't think it's the first time we've locked down the borders and just said no immigration. But I just think that there are people out there that we're bringing in that will be great assets, and there have been immigrants that have come in who have been great assets to this country. So I don't know that completely locking it down is the right idea, but I think that setting a limit so that they're not drawing off the tax dollars of hardworking Americans is probably the way to go.
Okay, and foreign ownership of assets. What I mean, it could be farmland or whatever, just assets in general where they're possibly manipulating the market. What are your thoughts on something like that? How would you even stop that? In the state, I don't. Yeah, we could keep them from buying land and stuff like that, but are we going to be able to keep them from buying anything because the feds are going to allow it? Now, sure. I mean, I don't know how far this has to go, how many laws you would have to write or what you would have to do to lock this down completely where foreign countries couldn't buy anything, any type of asset from a state. That's a pretty all-encompassing thing to do. I mean, could we do it? Yeah. But that's that's one of those things that would be really, really freaking hard to do.
Well, it's a very complex system, and it gets into a lot of different. Could you really get in the weeds? This would be something that I would have to deep dive and study. But I know that my first step would be to pass a bill stating that no land be sold, no land or farmland be sold to foreign entities. That's a great start. Now, I know that there are ways that they're going to get around certain things, and I know that when you talk about businesses, and it all started with Smithfield Farms here in Missouri. Once they allowed Smithfield Farms to be bought, the Chinese were able to move in. They got it passed to the point of, I believe it was 1% was allowed to be bought. And then, so then it came to over 100,000 acres of farmland was bought up, and it was bought up rapidly, like very fast, because they have the money to do so. And but I think that we have to start looking at these as national security issues, because it's not just Missouri that was affected. They've done this all across the heartland, and they've bought massive amounts of farmland. And to me, this is a national security risk, and we should take steps to force them out with that. But when it comes to other things, it's something that I have to make sure that I'm highly understanding what it is that they're doing. Because I can admit when I don't know enough about a certain subject, and that is a subject that I would have to take a deep dive in to become more informed. But I think that when it's a national security issue, I think anybody with half a brain can tell you that. Like it's not good to give your rivals your farmland. It's not good to allow them to come in and take over your ability to provide food for your people, especially at the large quantities that they've done so.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's not a stretch to go. Yeah, allowing the Chinese to buy a bunch of farmland in this country is a bad thing. I mean, that's kind of unless you're just you think China's just amazing and an amazing place to live. It's not a stretch to go. Yeah, we shouldn't really be selling farmland to foreign countries. It just doesn't seem like that's very a safe bet. That's not something that is unless you're just completely naive or dumb. Most people be like, yeah, we shouldn't be doing that, and you just go on.
Right.
Here's my thing. The immigration thing. There are just people who. Let's be honest, they just don't like the fact of anybody coming into the country. And I don't quite understand it. Do I think that they should be getting any sort of welfare or assistance that's taxpayer money? No, I don't. But I think in order to just say, nobody's coming in anymore, we're done, screw all of you, none of you are coming in anymore, You know, when I think here's I'll tell you the way I think. I think when you open that when you close that door and you say nobody's coming in, you also allow the government to say nobody's leaving. You're staying here. If no one can come in, they might not allow you to leave. Then what are you going to do? I think if you
Right.
close the door from a group of anybody coming in anymore and naturalizing into the country, you're also telling the government, maybe I just don't want to leave. I love this place so much that I don't want to get on an airplane and fly out of the country to even go visit just for tourism or anything. You might set yourself up for a real trap. That's my opinion, and I could be wrong. But I think if we allow the government to say no one's coming in anymore, we also allow the government to say no one's leaving. And it's just like, you want to build a never-ending border wall. Yeah, you're going to keep people out. You might also keep them in. Then what are you going to do? I mean, I have no problem with pulling a lot of troops out of other countries and going across the border to secure it. But having up a big wall with no doors, I think you're just telling the government, yeah, I don't want to leave either. I don't want any means of escape. And I think that's a little silly. I don't understand the mentality of saying nobody comes in because I think you open up Pandora's box. Anytime we ask the government to stop something that we don't like, who gets screwed the most? Us or them? We get screwed more. So there's something that's going to be slipped in there, especially at the federal level. We're going to get absolutely hammered on that. And I just don't trust these people enough to say keep everybody out. I don't trust them enough to do that to where it doesn't
Yeah.
affect the American people. That's
Well,
my take.
like we're very open about who we let in, and we're not as picky as what we could be or what other countries are. There are some countries like, for instance, Thailand, for instance, you have to have so much money that you can bring towards like to their banks that you can show that you're opening a business in their country. You have to be bringing something to their country for them to give you citizenship. So and this is just one country of many. There's many countries that are like that. They're highly picky about who they bring in, and they're only bringing in people that can contribute. So, I don't think that it's wrong for us to tighten up, the requirements or what we're looking for. I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, this is our country. We should have the ability to do so. It's just for those that are waiting in line and those that are trying to do it right and that meet our requirements of whatever say we choose, we have to be willing to let them in and also like keep the ones that are trying to cheat those folks, keep them out and allow the people that are doing the right thing to come in. So I mean, it really disrupts the system. So we have to lock it down as far as. But I do see your point. Are we building? I've thought about this sometimes too. Are we building our own prison to where we, if things go sour, we're stuck? I've thought about that often, and I know that that's probably your mindset, correct? When you're talking about the wall.
I do. I think somebody I just think people get it's one of those hot topics where people just get they're really entrenched and they're really passionate about it. And sometimes, now again, my opinion, and I don't know all the facts and all the numbers on immigration. I don't pretend to know all these things. I'm going with my gut on this. I'm going with my feeling, and again, seeing people who work where I'm at right now and
Right.
literally went through 7, 8, 9, 10 years of stuff to become a naturalized citizen, and they did it the right way. And now they're American citizens, and all these. I've seen this, and I just think, are we setting ourselves up for failure? Is this a way that government and people manipulate numbers to make you ask, to get you to the point where you demand that no one else comes in, but then also making it impossible for you to leave? Because I'm not saying everybody's, oh, I'm running away from. I'm not saying that. There are people that I know that say when it gets to a certain point in this country, because they have opened up a dual citizenship in a place where it's more secluded in some country, they're going there because they see the way our government's going, and they're like, if it gets to a certain point, I'm out of here. Well, what if you make it where they can't leave? Like, why are you leaving? I want to live over there. Well, you can't. We say
Right.
you can't. That's my thing. Do we want to get to that point? Are we so hell bent on keeping people out that we lock ourselves in? I don't like the thought of that. But I also don't like, the thought of doing what they did, putting them up in hotels and doing all these. Both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, don't care about illegal aliens. They don't care about illegal immigrants. They literally don't care. This is a great divisive issue that gets people fighting every 2 and 4 years. They don't care what happens. They're set in stone. Those guys are set. They're golden. They don't care. But they sure do
Yeah.
like to throw out little tidbits to get one side or the other frothing at the mouth and fighting and get people fighting amongst themselves while they continually getting screwed from the backside. So it's one of those things that, yeah, I do consider it a problem. I do not like the fact that people can come in here and get all these benefits for years and years and years and not have to become naturalized where, I have to work, 3.5, 4 months out of the year to only cover the taxes I'm supposed to pay, and then the other 8 months of the year is my income? That's a little insulting. I don't like that.
Right. Yeah, minus a month's worth due to the increase in inflation. So
Oh yeah, well
you
yeah,
drop the must pay. So that's it's a tough situation, and I understand that it is a divisive one, but we have to be willing to abide by the law,
yes,
and we have to look out for Americans first. And I think that's the mindset that I hold, and I know that if given the opportunity, those are the ideas that I will uphold. It's Missourians first. I want to take care of our own.
yeah. I mean, that's. Let's be honest. If you're fighting for freedom, then you want yourself and your fellow countrymen, the people of your state, to also enjoy the freedoms that you enjoy. But that freedom does not come at the cost of your money, my money, somebody else's money. That's just, you're able to make your choices, keep more of your money, have more. All your natural rights are secure. You're secure in your natural rights. You get to keep your money. You don't have to pay rent to a government. You don't have to ask them permission for everything. That should be first and foremost. And then we can, because like what we were talking about just a minute ago, Jacob, when we're talking about, when you said if these people come in and they want to start a business, well, here's something else. If we're going to do this, if we're going to do that, and I don't have a problem with that, but I would like for us first to work on the issue of licensure, all the business license and the permits and the fees that people have to pay in order just to open a business.
Right.
If we're going to demand, if one of the things that we ask for someone who wants to come in and become a naturalized citizen, that they're going to come in and be productive or open up a business, the first thing we have to do is make it to where people in this state don't have to jump through so many hoops to open up their own business, and not not to show special privilege for one class of people over another. It has to be, as the Missouri State Constitution says, it's not benefiting a certain group; it's benefiting everyone.
Yeah, we have to take steps to pull government off of creators of jobs and incentivize job growth. And I think that, slashing regulations and getting tax burdens off of business owners, especially small business owners, where you see, most fail within the first 2 years, small businesses. And a lot of it's due to there's so much regulation. There's so many hoops to jump through. They're already in such a deficit by the time they get going. It really is, we're chasing the American dream, but we're dragging this burden that the American government has put on us. It's ball and chain. We're dragging it to try to reach our our futures, our possibility, our destiny. And I look to help break that chain and allow the people of Missouri to drive forward and to become success, to find that American dream. And I think that is possible here in our state. I believe we can take steps to start to open up the job market, incentivize major businesses on coming in, and start to boom our economy. If we have the right leadership in place, we can turn the state around to where we're generating so much revenue that you don't have to worry about things like property tax. When you look at a state like, I believe, Florida, Arkansas, you look at is Texas. I don't believe is Texas have property tax? I don't believe so.
They don't have personal property tax, but they do have property tax, and I think their property
Okay.
tax is pretty freaking bad. It's, they don't have a lot of other taxes, but their property tax apparently is sky high.
Okay. Okay. Gotcha. So, I mean, when you look at things like that, it's there are states that are doing perfectly fine without it, and we can take steps to move in the right direction so that these people, people in Missouri can really flourish in the state. And that's the goal. That's the goal. This is the idea of liberty. This is the idea of our values. This is why we're constitutionalists. This is why we are the way we are. We're wanting to remove the hurdles of the people so that they can reach out and become to reach their fullest potential. And that's what freedom's about. It's about us not standing in the way as a state, but stepping out and making sure that the path is clear so that people can make their best run at it.
Yeah, I mean, we do. This state needs to do more because we're competing with Kansas and some other neighboring states where they've been able to pull more businesses in because of their the corporate tax rates or whatever, corporate income tax, whatever. We need to look at eliminating some of these things to make this a more business friendly environment. Um, I
Absolutely.
mean, honestly, right now, where I work, we're still shorthanded. We still don't have enough people. And they've been on a hiring spree. They've been going crazy. That's the most people we've had in that building for a long time. But our backlog of work is so, like, I'm talking 3 years out on single phase transformers. 3 years out. Because of the COVID scare, and I guess they thought maybe they wouldn't be able to get their stuff. These companies are ordering like mad, and we just don't have enough people to keep things flying out the door the way it should be. But I think I would like to see an end to corporate income tax. But again, I would also like to see, when a person has to go to school and spend so much money to have a business of literally all they're doing is braiding hair.
Right.
That's a little ridiculous. That's asinine. If you're requiring, again, I've stated this several times. The gal that one of the gals that works at the place I get my hair cut at, she said she had a Pell Grant. She went through school with that, but a couple of the other gals there, $12,000. $12,000 you have to pay to learn how to cut and dye hair. And I know the reason it's that high is because you have to have a license to cut hair. We've made, it's one of those things. Licensure, all it is the state making something illegal until you pay a fee, and then it becomes a legal activity. And it drives me
Right.
insane that we're supposed to be the free. We're striving for freedom, but if you want to open up a business, you better be ready to get down on your knees and beg and pay all kinds of extortion fees out to people who say they support the middle class and small business owners. And it doesn't appear that way to me if you're requiring all these things.
Yeah, that's right. And I hope that we can make Missouri kind of a beacon, like a lighthouse to the rest of the nation, so that we can draw in the people that are here to work hard. And I believe by making this a more job friendly, a more business friendly, a more people friendly state. You look at states like California, and their nonsense is driving people by droves into other states. We need to be the opposite. We need to be able to pull talent. We need to be able to to be able to support the people that want to make a living off, or give the ability for people who want to make a living on these small farms. Like I've seen in the comments they were talking about, we have to remove those regulations to allow people to make a good living and be able to move forward. And I think we can do that. You've looked at all the success that Florida has had. There's no reason why Missouri can't be the one to be mentioned, why we can't be in the forefront of leadership. We just have to put the right people in place, and our people have to get active and start taking a role in shaping our future. It's going to take us all. We have to get involved. We have to, as many as possible, to push forward. So, but I am grateful that you had me on today. This has been a blast talking with you, John.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And she is right. This person is right, where local farms having more rights to sell what they with their crops, or selling the meat from their livestock, whatever. That's if these politicians are going to say that they support the small farm, the family farms, and the middle class, then screw the USDA, screw these health departments that, they just literally make everything so expensive. Allow these people, especially in a time like this where family farms are really struggling, allow them to do this. Also, I would add to this mix on family farms, let's legalize hemp, where you don't have to have, what do they call it, some kind of, you got to pay like $750 or $950 to get a license to grow hemp. Allow these family farms to grow hemp without a license. Allow them to grow hemp. Biodiesel, all the products you make from hemp, and then also feed their cattle with it. Come on, it's just like a no-brainer. But these are things that we have to push for. And yes, Jacob, I am really happy that you joined me this evening. And as time moves forward, I'd like to have you back on when some hot topics come around. You'd like to come on and discuss them. You just give me a heads up. You let me know when you want to come on, and I'll book you a date, brother.
Hey, I appreciate it. Thanks for everybody who listened in, tuned in. Greatly appreciate it, man. And John, we're lucky to have a voice like yours keeping the fight.
I appreciate that, man. I'm doing what I can and hoping that we can get more people involved. So, best of luck, Jacob. Great talking to you. Have a great weekend, my friend.
Yes, sir. Right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Jacob Turner, everybody. So, again, interesting. Jacob's more out of the libertarian camp, but he's got a little mix of, I think, a lot of conservative / libertarian style views. But I do know that Jacob is honest. If he doesn't know about something, we've discussed topics before. The next time he's come on, he's been read up on them and been able to, we've had a longer discussion on things. So I trust Jacob. Jacob says, hey, I'm going to dig into this. Jacob will end up digging into it, I'm telling you. Thanks to all of you who joined in on a live stream. Gary Ride, Wilderness Gal, Voodoo Queen, Warrior Class 3, Casey Rich, BH was in here, Catherine was in here, Jonathan Ashley was in here. So good to see each and every one of you. And that'll do it. Next Friday, I should be joined by Patrick again for our first Friday of the month interview, and hopefully, we'll be talking about the gold and silver bill. Let's hope. Let's cross our fingers that gold and silver gets pre-filed, and that we can start hyping this thing and getting people the education on it, and bring the knowledge, and get that push started. But again, the Plockers of the world, the Lincoln Huffs of the world, in our state capital, something's got to give, man. Something's got to be done about these fools. And let's just hope that we can get it done. But anyway, thanks to everyone who joined in, those who download, those who listen via radio. Greatly appreciate each and every one of you. Don't forget to check out mofree.org. It's mofree.org. Also, don't forget to check out molibertyradio.us, especially on Sunday nights from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Time. Sam and Trish Britton, Off the Cuff Radio. Also, don't forget to check out keyradio.live. And don't forget about the guy who sponsored an episode, slaphappybeverage.com. Don't forget about slaphappybeverage.com, one of our great sponsors of this show. And here in another week or so, maybe I'll put it in the description later, I'm going to put a link to all the businesses that I kind of have plugged over my time of doing this the last few years. So that way there's a link that you can find these people and maybe buy some products from them. And yeah, thank you, Gary. Thank you, Voodoo. Thank you, Wilderness Gal. Thank you, Warrior Class 3. Thank you all. And we will see you next week right here for another episode of the Missouri Liberty